Welcome back to a special edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. We have joining us for the third time on the pod, Rutgers Athletic Director, Pat Hobbs. Thanks, Pat, for joining us.
Good to be with you guys.
So getting right into this, recently the athletic department sent out a survey, including artist renderings of what the RAC / Jersey Mike's Arena could look like in the future. What's been the feedback you guys have gotten so far on the survey?
Well, with the exception of some confusion, it's been pretty positive. I think folks are now starting to understand the purpose of the survey. But I think, there's still a little confusion that when would this work begin? Should the decision be made to go forward with the work? I guess let me start with that. So back in last spring, we started a feasibility study with AECOM Architects. AECOM also happened to be the architecture firm that was working with us on the facilities master plan, which we're hoping to release sometime in the new year. So they had a lot of sort of legwork already done on just how feasible it is from a structural standpoint of whether you could do the work in there. So then the next piece is, well, what do you do? What do you actually design? How do you, what ingredients, what components go into a renovated Jersey Mike's Arena? And that's the purpose of the survey. The survey, which we'll get back that information in the next couple of weeks, is going to inform the architects what is the appetite for a variety of different types of seating. What is the appetite for the concessions? We already know people want bathrooms. That's a pretty simple one. Check that one off. Yes, more bathrooms, probably 5 times as many bathrooms as we currently have. But then it's about your seating. And I think the renderings are helpful because they sort of a little bit show the imagination around what we could do with a renovated Jersey Mike's Arena. You can see that there's an external lobby that gets added. That's what allows us to have a 360 concourse instead of the 2 dead ends that we currently have. So we'll get a lot of information back from the season ticket holders and all the people who have been sent the survey. So I would encourage anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't already done the survey, please complete the survey. It's going to help us a lot because it makes no sense to design certain types of premium seating if nobody's interested in it, right? And so it's really going to be very helpful to us. Now, once that comes in, there's still more work that has to be done, right? So now the architects have to start work on design. Then they have to do the cost estimating. And then that ultimately will result in a report, which comes back, which I present to the Committee on Intercollegiate Athletics and to the president. And so this is what we've come up with. This is what we think the return on investment is going to be. This is what we believe the cost of all of this is going to be. And then we get to the next decision. If the decision at that point is like, let's go forward with a phase of that or the whole thing, now you got to go to real design, right? Now you got to go to construction documents. That is going to take us all the way past next season. So for the folks who are worried about, is this work going to be happening next season when we've got a pretty exciting recruiting class coming in? The answer is no. There will be no disruption of next season. And what our hope is, and what our guidance and our request to the architects has been, is we would like a plan so that we don't have to disrupt any basketball season as we renovate the arena. And that's been done by the current architect and other architects around the country, where they can phase the work so you don't disrupt your season. And that's what we hope we can do.
Now there's been a ton of artist renderings that floated around as well on the survey. I know I've seen on my message board specifically, people are panicking. What's happening to my seats? Oh my God, what do I do? Those aren't finished products by any means, right?
No, they're renderings. Those are what we'd call conceptual renderings. I hope what people see when they look at those renderings is a pretty exciting renovation of the arena, where you do have a completed 360 concourse. You do have some club areas. Nothing is done to the vertical aspect of the seating, so it's still going to be one of the loudest, if not the loudest, environment in college basketball. For those who've sort of really taken the microscope or widened it out and looked at it, it shows perhaps we'll be able to get students on 3 sides of the court, which would be pretty exciting. Will seats get moved? Yes, all the seating will get moved. We want to improve seat backs and things. We want it to be a more comfortable environment, but I still hope nobody sits in their seats throughout the entire game. I'd rather them up on their feet yelling and screaming for the Scarlet Knights.
Is the plan to add any seating in this renovation plan, or is that depending on what you end up choosing?
Yeah, it'll be about the same amount of seats. We might lose some seats if you widen some of the seating and chair backs, but it's roughly going to be somewhere between 7,700 and 8,000 seats. So we're keeping about the same amount of seats. Where we hope to bring in more students, there may be some standing room sort of seating because our students thankfully don't sit for the entire contest. And that'll make it what I believe it's going to be an even louder environment than it already is, and that's pretty special.
Now, just looking at the renderings and stuff, I know last time we talked, one of the main priorities for you was to get luxury seating in the RAC or Jersey Mike's Arena, because there is none technically. But is that one of your priorities? And what are your top 3 priorities when trying to get these renderings, when the expansion and all that stuff done?
So number one priority is coming as an outcome where we have more revenue, right? Mm-hmm. So folks have focused on how does the athletic program start to narrow the revenue gap that we have. So you're already challenged by the size of the venue, right? So I think the average seating in the conference is around 13,000 seats, right? We have 8,000. So, we're more like Northwestern in terms of the size of our venue. But Northwestern completed a renovation and added some club areas, where now they drive revenue, right? So better concourses. It makes no sense for somebody to stand online for a half hour to go to the bathroom. If we can get them in and out of the bathroom and they can go over and they can buy their beverage and buy their hot dog, and that drives revenue for us. We're not, just because of the nature of the venue, we're not going to be able to put 20 suites into a Jersey Mike's Arena, right? You're going to be able to put some loge seating. You're going to be able to put some quality seating that has access to club areas where those clubs get positioned is all flexible right now. It's going to be, what do the architects come back with? But, number one for me will be driving revenue. I should probably say for everybody who's listening, number one is to maintain the insanity of the place so that it's still the toughest place to come in and play. So, but I'm not worried about that because we're not, we're not expanding it. We're not doing anything other than looking how do we, how do we grow revenue in that space? How do we make it a much more comfortable venue for, not for our visiting teams, but for our fans? Bathrooms, concessions, yes, some club areas for folks who are willing to spend a little bit more to have a quality experience in the arena.
So you spoke about raising revenue, and it's interesting. An article came out today from Ross Dellinger talking about revenue sharing. Maryland's athletic director, Damon Evans, was speaking before a group last week, and he said revenue sharing is coming to the Big Ten likely within 5 years. How hard is it to prepare for big projects, NIL, and things like that when the unknown of revenue sharing is sitting on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I guess my comment, we'll see. I wish there was a little bit more focus on what we do for our student athletes currently, because the amount of value and the resources, the quality of the resources that we have for our student athletes, even in my 8 years at Rutgers, has changed dramatically. When I got here, we were limited in the amount of food that we could provide our student athletes. Now we're not limited, and so we do a really, really good job with our nutrition staff on feeding our student athletes. No student athlete goes hungry at Rutgers, and nor across the Big Ten. I think we're going to look at everything. You have to be reactive. Regardless of what we might do down the road by way of student athletes, you still need great venues, right? You still need places where people want to come. We still need a sold-out Jersey Mike's Arena. Eventually, we've got to look at SHI Stadium, and we got to make some upgrades in there as well. And we've been looking at some options. At some point, we'll send a survey out around SHI Stadium and what their appetite might be for improvements in SHI Stadium.
Just moving on to NIL a little bit. You guys recently hired Reed Zach as NIL general manager. Where do you see the athletics department or his role in the athletics department and NIL landscape, and how will this role kind of help drive those goals you have?
Talk about an ever-evolving landscape, right? Nobody, 4 years ago, the letters were NLI, right? National Letter of
Yeah.
Intent. Right?
Yep,
Now
yep.
it's NIL, and it's name, image, and likeness. So, yeah, we hired Reed. I know he's reaching out to the corporate community, talking about how our student athletes, our Scarlet Knights, can be really great and brand ambassadors for them. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do things the right way. We're monitoring what works, what doesn't work, to the extent that our student athletes start to get used by some of these brands and people see a return on investment because, hey, you know what? I used the Scarlet Knight. It brought a lot of attention to the product I'm trying to sell, the service I'm trying to sell. Then we can use those examples to show others, folks who've had a relationship with Rutgers, but folks who've never had a relationship with Rutgers, like, you don't need to use the people that you're using in your ads and everything else. We've got a great group of student athletes here who chose to come and compete in New Jersey. And so if you want to sell your product or service in New Jersey, who better to promote your brand than our student athletes? So that's what we're about right now, is making sure that the true NIL opportunities are available for our student athletes. And Reed will be an important part of that infrastructure here at Rutgers.
Is his primary goal to expand the collaboration with companies, individuals, NIL collectives in general, or is there a different primary goal for his job?
His job is to try to do everything you possibly can to help our student athletes realize the potential of their name, image, and likeness.
Gotcha. So we have an apparel deal question for you. So obviously it's still Adidas. There wasn't an announcement about a re-up. I know that contract did expire in June, I believe. Is there any details of the apparel deal that you can share with us that isn't public?
We're continuing to work through the details, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have some information to share.
Awesome. Kind of moving on from that a little bit, not talking basketball, but switching to football a little bit. I know everyone wants to know what's going on with the indoor practice facility or potential indoor practice facility.
So, because the season's been going, we're in the middle of our season,
Yeah.
right? Coach has not had as much time to focus on that and the design concepts around it. So we'll circle back to that in the off season. The Populace has continued to work on that, so they'll have some things to show and share with Coach. We'll get his feedback and commentary on that, and then hopefully we get to a green light as we go, and so that we can get that really essential asset available for our football program.
And piggybacking on that a little bit, there's no set location for where it's going to go because there's always these rumors that it's going here, it's going there. I know tennis recently moved too, so that's another rumor.
Yeah, the actual location has not been finalized.
Okay.
So speaking of the football season not being over, Rutgers clinched bowl eligibility for the first time in almost a decade. I know we went to the Gator Bowl, but that was a very specific set of circumstances. We have a press conference scheduled for Sunday. How excited are you to be a part of the bowl selection process and just to go to a bowl for the first time in the proper way, where you can actually plan for it, you have the practices, you get to go and spend some time? How excited are you for that?
Well, they're both the proper way, right? So, never dismiss going to a bowl
Sure.
game because of your academic performance, right? The academic performance allowed that team to go to the Gator Bowl, which was great. We had a scramble. The nice thing is we're going to have a little bit more time to plan this. But in answer to your question, I could not be more excited. It's been a long time, and to now be bowl eligible, it's a credit to Greg and what he's done in 4 years and his staff, and to our student athletes. And they're the ones that I feel best for, right? Is particularly the ones that are seniors now, that this was their last opportunity to get bowl eligible in this way. It's a testament to their performance. Obviously, some of the other games we thought we could win, and we were in pretty good position, but hey, the Big Ten is a big mountain to climb. So, that Sunday, I will be very, very excited to learn where we are from anywhere from New York City to Phoenix and Vegas, and doesn't matter to me. I'm just really happy for our kids.
Sticking with football, I got one last one for you. It's year 4 for Greg. That's usually when coaches and ADs start talking extension. Has it been talked about at all? Has it been mentioned?
Well, I'd say to you is Greg Sheehan is going to be here for as long as he wants to be at Rutgers, and you'll see proof of that down the road.
Oh, interesting. Very mysterious. I like it. The last time we talked to you, UCLA and USC had just joined the Big Ten. Now, a few months ago, Oregon and Washington accepted an invitation to the Big Ten for 2024 to bring the Big Ten up to 18 universities. Do you see future expansion in the future? Do you think this is a pretty solid 18 number, or is it, who knows at this point?
Well, you're who knows at this point is probably the right answer. But I think we're pretty settled here for the time being. But listen, you never know what happens. You hear things about what's happening in the ACC. So I know our commissioner, Tony Petitti, will keep a very close eye on everything that's going on. But I think it's going to be a big task just to integrate these four, great programs. We've got the football schedule, so we figured that out. But figuring out the baseball and the softball and volleyball schedules, that's going to be a pretty big task. So I think we got to figure out that we can get these four teams in and make it all work, which we will.
So when some of these schools were announced that they were coming in, there was a little bit of talk that schools like Maryland, Nebraska, and Rutgers specifically kind of held things up a little bit to talk about them coming in on a full share immediately. Did anything really come of that? And does Rutgers at a full share now?
There was no hold up in that at all. The chancellors and presidents with the USC, UCLA, they saw that opportunity. And then when Oregon and Washington came in under the conditions that they did, the chancellors and presidents, I believe it was unanimous in both cases. So neither Rutgers nor Maryland were trying to hold up anything. If we can get great additions to our conference, it builds our brand, and financially it pays off for everybody in the long run.
And is Rutgers up to a full share?
We are full share
currently. Okay, there you
go. So you mentioned Tony Petitti. How hard has it been in terms of the leadership structure this year for the Big Ten, in terms of everything that's going on, from scandals to just how difficult have those meetings been to be a part of?
He's tremendous. He's great. Tony has a wide range of experience. He has a great style as a commissioner. He listens. He builds consensus. He makes sure that the ADs and the chancellors and presidents are informed. So it's actually been, he's had some big issues that he's had to deal with. Probably wishes he didn't in his first 6 months of tenure on the job. But I think he's handled them incredibly well. I think we are really well represented as we, talks continue around the CFP and what's going to happen with that. And I think he's going to be a really important voice in what happens with collegiate athletics as we go forward.
I wanted to circle back to the facilities talk real quick because I completely forgot about this one. Now, we know there's talk about Jersey Mike's renovations. There's talk about a football facility. Is there an order of what could be next? Because I know there's previously been talks about lax, about baseball, softball.
I mean, the short answer is we're trying to answer for 50 years of not investing, right?
Yeah.
Before the RWJ Barnabas Health Athletic Performance Center opened, the previous building was then RAC, now Jersey Mike's Arena. So you had 50 years go by with really minimal investment. Some, right? There was the stadium expansion. There was some work done on the Hale Center, some smaller things. So we're going to try to push on all fronts, and where fundraising is important, we're going to try to get a donor who's interested, whether it's lacrosse, tennis, whatever it happens to be, so that we can advance those projects. But obviously, the indoor practice facility is a priority. That's a needed asset for our football program if we're going to continue to build and grow. And then the venues are really important because I need to grow revenue here in Rutgers Athletics.
Absolutely. Pat, I know you're short on time today, so we really appreciate you joining us. Is there anything you wanted to say before we head out today?
Just, again, appreciate all of our fans and everything that they do, the way that they've come out for football, come out to the bowl game, support our teams through the basketball season. Wrestling's off to a start. So we love all of our fans. We love their passion. Fill out the survey if you haven't already filled out the survey. We need that information. And then thanks to all of our coaches and our student athletes for competing in the great way that they do for Rutgers.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again for coming on. We want to thank Athletic Director Pat Hobbs once again for joining us. It was a lot of stuff. I know we normally talk to him a little bit longer, but we had some time constraints today. But we do thank him for coming on for the third time. He's always a great guest, and he always expands on so much that we talk about. but we will have him back, like he said, in the near term. What was the most surprising thing he said, Rich, to you?
Surprising. He confirmed that the students are going to be kind of all on three sides. That was pretty cool, and people are going to be pissed, but I'm all about it.
Yeah, and he did say that there will be some shuffling of seats.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go into specifics there.
I'll give you like a voucher for the gift shop or something. Here, move.
I don't know if it'll be a voucher for the gift shop. I'm sure that they'll do their best to make sure that longtime season ticket holders will have the right of first refusal for not only their current seats, but if they are getting moved for some kind of equivalent seat in a different spot in the arena.
Yeah.
But I mean, guys, this is kind of like, this is a big boy move. You got to make some tough decisions, and some people aren't going to, get everything that they want. And that's just the unfortunate downside to growth and progress.
Yeah. Some people are going to be pissed off, but he even said his number one priority is to make sure it stays the same structure. And if you still have the seats basically on a steep ass hill, you're still going to have that same loudness and same environment, especially if you make it a bowl. I think it's going to be even louder.
Yeah. And he said something about 5 times more bathrooms. I don't think he necessarily meant 5 times more bathrooms, but I think the overwhelming feedback from the survey is people want more bathrooms, from the big shot donors to the to everybody else. So,
well, just to put in context, like the media, the students, the fans, the alumni, whatever, the courtside seats, the little bougie Eisner Ampner thing, you all use the same bathroom. There's not that many bathrooms in there. That's why the lines, if you go to that part of the concourse, are ridiculous. And if you're a student, you got to walk all the way around. So that's why that whole circular 360 is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's a brutal situation right now, as we all know. Who if you have to go, even if you're sitting at the top of the third deck, you have to go all the way down, basically to the entrance of the stadium. Not ideal.
And then wait.
Yeah, and then hopefully you beat the rush at halftime or whatnot. Yeah, what else stadium-wise was interesting?
The luxury seats. We knew it's in the renderings. Like, I know they're not finalized, but like that's the same picture that we saw. Well, I saw in the master plan document I got from a couple years ago. Like they're not. I think that's not changing for the most part. They need luxury seats, and they're going to do it. That's been the talk forever. There's nothing. There's zero. Their luxury box right now. If you were to buy a luxury box on SeatGeek, do you know where the media sits? It's the same thing, just on the other side. And you get a little popcorn box, and you get to sit in this little weird, like, cubicle type thing. And it's like, wow, that's cool, I guess. But no, these people want to spend money. And end of the day, I said it to you off pod. Like, people are thinking that if you put bougie seats in the 100 section, they're not going to talk. They're not going to yell. They're not even going to watch the game. Basketball is basketball at the end of the day. You know how many people go to Knicks games that aren't Knicks fans? It sells out every night of the week. And they could be the worst team in the NBA, and it still sells out every night of the week.
Yep.
Because people like basketball.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, they have to find a way to raise revenue. Yeah. And there's 2 ways to do that. They either can raise the price a lot on everybody, or they can build luxury seating, which costs a lot, but companies will buy it, rich donors will buy it, and that'll take down some of the cost on the other people in the arena.
Yeah, like a Pepsi box, an RWJ box. They're just going to buy it and give it to their employees, and it's a write-off for them, so they don't give a shit. And there you go.
And this is just part of being in the Big Ten, guys. Like, every other arena in the Big Ten has some kind of luxury seating package. Like, he talked about this last time, that we have the lowest inventory of premium seating in the Big Ten by a long shot, and it has to change. And this is unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. It's just a part of. That's a big reason why it's getting renovated, is to add that premium seating, and also to add some more bathrooms, and to complete the concourse, to go 360, and to spiff that up a little bit on the the concourse and the entrance. That's the whole reason for doing this. And if you have feedback and you haven't answered the survey yet, you're doing yourself a disservice, because they want to hear everyone's feedback, like you said. So if you haven't already, fill it out. If you're protesting it, your voice won't be heard. So,
I know he said it wasn't definite, like these renderings and everything, but he made it seem like that new front entrance / side entrance, if you want to call it that, sounds pretty definite to me that that's going to happen, which I'm okay with. I think it's kind of cool. Number one, a little mini glass trapezoid, and you get a front entrance that people are like cool with, and walk in instead of walking into this little tiny like weird squeaky door. So I mean, I think that's cool, and I know people are complaining that it's facing the parking lot. I think that's the best idea in the world. You don't want to walk around the building; you want to walk straight in. That's it, done. Like I don't understand the complaints about that one.
Yeah, I mean, the change is always going to be met with resistance, and that's just something that is going to happen regardless of how big or small the change is. So, but change is coming, and this is part of the growth as an athletic department. Well,
give me a second.
I thought it was interesting.
Oh,
good.
Sorry. No. I'm going to pop something up in a second. You can keep going.
Oh, I was going to change the topic. So this is about J-Man.
Yeah, this is about Jersey Mike's. Yeah, I also called it the rack in front of him. I was like, oh shit, oops.
I did too.
I was like, but he said he's like previously rack, so I mean, he gets it. It's how it works. Let me see if I can pop this up real quick. How do I open this? It's just comparing Jersey Mike's to like every other arena in the Big Ten, and it goes to show you like they need to renovate. Like share screen. Oh no, screen. Why don't I see it? Window. There it is. Perfect. There you go. Which one doesn't have courtside seating? There's 1, 2, 3. A courtside club. I'm sorry. Which one doesn't have a sideline club? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's like some arenas that don't have anything, but it's if you see the additional features, like everyone's renovated something in the past.
Yep.
Like there's 12 seats here. There's conventional suites, new but premium thingy. The bunker bar is, I guess that's what they're calling that weird thing, that the Eisner-Ampner thingy. It now has a Prudential logo above it, so it's just like, hey, slap corporate logo here, slap corporate logo here.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes to show you, because that Prudential thing wasn't there last year, and Prudential's a big name, so companies want to buy in, and they want to buy in now because it's going to be cheap now, but next year it's going to gone through the roof.
Yeah, and if you're just trusting the trajectory of the program, you're trusting that, maybe they're not going to land 2 of the top 3 kids in the country every year, but this is a team that has shown that they're going to be in the NCAA tournament hunt each year. They've had some big moments, like to have the Prudential logo in the background of something like a Ron Harper Jr. half-court shot. That play will get played in perpetuity forever. So if your logo happens to be in the background, you're getting so much residual free marketing, because that's going to be something they show during so many like highlight reels and so many sizzle reels, and it's just going to be a moment that you're going to have locked in forever. Yeah.
And then just the last thing about this chart before I close it out, it's Rutgers opened 1977. Or what year did they renovate? Oh, they didn't. Recent investment. Look at this: 100 mil, 100 mil, 100 mil, 50 mil, 40 mil, 7 mil. I don't know. I was renoed in 2016, so it doesn't matter. None, like zero investment into the rack. It hasn't changed since I was a kid. It hasn't changed before that.
Yeah.
So it's like, they got to do something. I'm sorry, but this is happening.
Well, they didn't include the AC they added recently, so there has been some light renovation, but it's more of like
too, because they're on
quality of life thing rather than an actual improvement.
Yeah. But what else?
I thought it was interesting that he confirmed it's Adidas, but they haven't ironed out all the details yet. And that's obvious.
Yeah.
NIL stuff.
Wish we could have picked his brain on that more, because I would have liked to know, if he wouldn't have said what companies have reached out, but we do know for a fact other companies did reach out. And then the fact that I don't know, like a brand like Puma is starting to grow a little bit, New Balance is growing. I wonder if one of those was just, hey, we have a shit ton of money, you could be our only program. But in reality, Rutgers is the only Northeast program for Adidas too, so that's the other factor.
Yeah, a lot of these brands are now taking a totally different strategy with trying to grow and create a bigger footprint. Like you've seen something like, I think Pharrell is like the president of design at some big, I think it's like Louis Vuitton at this point. But then you see stuff like Shaquille O'Neal is like the president of Reebok basketball department.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing these big investments trying to create, to basically chip away at some of Nike's lead. and they have to get creative, and sometimes it's throwing a bag at a school like Rutgers to you could be our flagship team, you could be our the program we put all our money into. So it's a changing landscape for sure, but I think the Adidas brand has been good to Rutgers, and Rutgers has been good for them, and it'll be interesting to see what those details are.
Especially because they seem like they want to get more into hoops more than anyone, other than Nike and Jordan, obviously. But yeah, it should be good. It should be good news for them.
Yep. NIL wise, it was interesting to hear him talk about the role he sees athletics playing in the NIL landscape. Talked about Reed Zach, the new NIL general manager, kind of spoke to some of what his job duties will be. Do you see this as the athletic department taking a big step in terms of its influence in NIL?
I think it's tough. Rutgers in a weird spot where they don't have enough donors to do both NIL and like facilities and stuff like that. So I think that there's still a lot of people that are still very against NIL, and it might be more so the older generation that's just like, why the hell would I pay an amateur? And it's like that's how it works now. You want to transfer quarterback, who we talked about in the past. Well, we want to transfer quarterback, but you got to pay for it. You're not going to get them. I said last offseason they want an offensive tackle. They went out and looked. There was a G5 guy, pretty decent at G5, not great, not like superstar, decent at G5, and he gets like $600,000 from somewhere. So you got to pay. End of the day.
Yeah, I think outside of the whole concept of like these should be amateur athletes, they already get a scholarship, blah blah blah, like the common narrative used by people who don't like NIL, it's also kind of an ego thing, and not in a bad way. Like previously, if you donated 6 figures to the athletic department, you're getting your name on a building, you're getting special treatment, you're in the media guide for your donation. The AD is coming up to you, knowing your name on a first name basis. The coaches are schmoozing with you. You don't have that kind of schmoozing if you're just giving a kid a 6-figure check to play 1 year at your college or your university. So I do think that a recalibration of like expectations of what your money's going towards has to happen, and that's not going to be something that happens in 1 year. Even when you have coaches saying, we want you to focus your donations towards NIL, a lot of people just aren't going to be down with that for a multitude of reasons, some of which I just listed, some of which I haven't. But it's something that not everyone's comfortable with yet, and I don't know if some people ever will get comfortable with it. But
yeah, now I do have to give. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I do have to give a shout out to the Knights of Raritan for their ideas that they're pulling out, like the beer thing. Like I can, like if I'm a Rutgers fan, I can go buy a Rutgers themed beer and then get some of that donated back. Yeah. Well, I don't even have to do anything. I just got to buy the beer and drink it. I don't even have to drink it, but I'm gonna drink it.
And it is a good beer too. If you haven't tried it, On the Banks by Twin Elephant. It's very good. Also, Night Society has a beer with Asbury Park Brewing, Scarlet Ale, which is also really good. And I am a bit of like a beer snob. I'm not just saying these 2 beers are good. They're actually really good. So if you're looking for a beer that's a lot like Fat Tire, that is Scarlet Ale from Asbury Park. And the On the Banks beer from Twin Elephant is a light, hazy IPA. It's not super bitter. It's actually very drinkable, not too strong. So definitely worthwhile to get both of those.
I think you could buy that online, if I'm correct.
I think as long as you live in the state of New Jersey, you can have it delivered to you. I know they did sell out, so there might be a bit of a wait.
So maybe.
So,
well, it's a good sign.
Stay tuned for that. It was kind of wild that story dropped. It's literally a story that dropped at 11 a.m. this morning. We're recording now at around 4 about Maryland's AD saying revenue sharing is coming, and it's coming in the next 5 years. Some people say even sooner. I hope we didn't ambush Pat with that one, but that was something I thought was very kind of, people have talked about revenue sharing, but to hear somebody say it's coming and have a timeline on it is, it's kind of, you're staring down the massive mountain of change coming. On top of NIL, this is an even bigger change.
And remind me again, which conference has the biggest revenue deal?
I believe that would be the Big Ten. And the interesting thing about that is that the Big Ten structured its TV deal specifically to get in front of the SEC. So I think the SEC signed like a 9-year deal the year before the Big Ten. Big Ten signed a 7-year deal. So you're getting 2 bites of the apple before the SEC gets another. So be interesting to see how that TV deal goes.
It's going to help with TV, not TV, with recruiting too.
Oh yeah,
people want money.
Yep, and it's only going to widen the gap of the haves and have-nots in college athletics. Like, if you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're really at a massive disadvantage, especially if the Big Ten institutes the revenue sharing, and the SEC will probably follow right along. Like, how is a Mountain West surviving that?
Oh, they brought in those two weirdo schools that no one else wants.
You bring in those schools, but you can't offer anything near what the Big Ten would offer in terms of revenue sharing. So
no, that's why talent's going to just go to those 18 to start, and then obviously the SEC is going to have a giant deal too. But the rest of the conferences are kind of in flux. Big 12 went from almost dissolving to maybe the top 3 conference.
Yeah, they did a great job of being hyper aggressive with trying to expand, and not only expand, but to get ahead of its TV deal. Like, they started negotiations a year ahead of its exclusive negotiation window, which really helped them, because it was basically like the scene from The Dark Knight where the Joker breaks the pool stick and only one of the people can leave the room. That was what it was like for the Pac-12 and the Big 12. The Big 12 was just more cutthroat and ruthless.
It's crazy.
Which kind of had to be.
Never would have thought I'd see it.
Yeah, they were on their way out. I didn't think they would be the one that survived, but they did.
The crazy thing is like I used to get Sports Illustrated when I was in like middle school, high school. I think it was high school. It was my 9th grade or 10th grade year, and me and my buddy, he was a West Virginia fan, and we used to get it all the time. And we were reading it in science class, and we got yelled at all the time for talking sports. But we're reading it's like super expansion conferences. Look at this! This thing's fucking nuts. 32 team conferences, and it's like, that'll never happen. Whatever. And now we're talking 10 years or 12 years down the line, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, it could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot like the NFL at some point, where it's just like the AFC is the SEC and the NFC is the Big Ten. But still a long ways away from that. But change is inevitable, and change is never stopping. So just got to adapt. What else from what Pat said that was interesting to you?
Football. I'll start with the practice facility, lack thereof. It sounds like they're starting to move the needle a little bit more. Sound a little more optimistic this time than we did last time talking about, and I think that was March, right, when we talked to him? March-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was in March. It was right after the Selection Sunday.
Yeah, so he seemed a little more optimistic that this thing is going to get done. He said it again in his outro that Greg needs this. He needs it more than anything. And that's what it sounds like. They're trying to get sponsors on board to do it. Now, where it's going to be planned, he kind of said, I don't know still. But the fact that the rumor was that the tennis facility was going to move, and they were going to put it there. And that's how it's drawn up in the former master plan too. That it's going to go right there. So I know there were concerns with the hill there, and I think one of that house back there, the Cornelius house or whatever it is like a historical thing, so you can't really go too close to it. The other rumor was the yellow lot. I think that's still possible, because he did say location still to be determined. So yeah, I mean, the fact that it's just kind of starting to progress a little more and gave us a little more confidence that it's going to happen. I think you'll see something in the new year, just based on what he was kind of saying.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see something sooner rather than later. And I know that originally it was supposed to be in early summer, and then it got pushed back to fall. It's not because they're not doing work. It's that things are progressing and things come up, and you kind of gotta do A before you can do B, before you can do C, etc. So the plan will get announced soon. It's just they gotta dot their I's and cross their T's.
Yeah, and then Greg extension. And Greg will be here as long as Greg wants to be here, which we kind of hinted at. And that's whenever you could say that about your football and your basketball coach, that's a great sign for your university.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so much stability to an athletics department where there's no doubt you have the right guy at the helm for both football and basketball.
Look at the 4-star kid that just decommitted, or 4-star, 5-star kid that decommitted from Colorado. He's like, hey, I don't know if Deion's going to be there by the time I get there. He's a 2025, so by the time he gets there, Deion really might not be there. You can't say that about Rutgers, and that's a huge recruiting tool that you can use and be like, Greg's been here before. He's tried other shit. He's done with that. Like, it's it.
And I thought it was interesting recently. Greg has kind of talked about how if I didn't make that mistake the first time, or if I'd never left, like he's been retrospective about how different things might have been had he stayed and how much he regrets it, which is, I mean, he doesn't really talk about the past often, but this is the one thing that it seems to really kind of irk him that he left. So I really don't see Shiano leaving outside of retirement at Rutgers. There's no job I think he would take, and I think he's fully dedicated to getting this program to where his ultimate goal is, and we all know what his ultimate goals are.
He said it yesterday or Monday. Yeah, yesterday he said it. He's like, and then this group will come back and they'll look at us winning college football playoffs, Big Ten championships, college football championships. And I was like, oh shit, like you just went out and said it. All right. I mean, that's the right thing to do, but it's just like he's been very conservative when it comes to talking about stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, like this past couple weeks, he's just been an open book, kind of. He's been a totally different person.
Great. It's shocking, I imagine, for you guys who are talking to him and probably looking at each other left and right. Like, is he really saying this? Because it's just like him showing his humanity, and people are just like, people love this. Like, he's not saying anything controversial. He's just, relating to people. He's humanizing it. We know he's a great recruiter, but he rarely shows that to the media. And I hope that continues, because this has been a great side of Greg that we haven't seen probably ever.
Now I do have one thing to nitpick about that press conference. When he was talking about his Thanksgiving plate, and he said, I'm Italian, I got to put a little bit of noodles. I wish he would have been like, a little bit of noodles.
Oh my gosh.
Instead he was just a little bit of noodles like this.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, that would have been perfect.
I don't know if that's a bit or if he actually has pasta on Thanksgiving. Obviously, you're not gonna get another shot at asking him that question.
No, but it was funny. It was just comical.
Yep.
What else? There's something else, wasn't there? Oh, Olympic sports. He kind of said same thing. He's kind of been adamant about if like someone wants to donate to a lax stadium or someone wants to donate to baseball, or softball, they'll make it happen. They did it with lights recently with baseball, and it's been that's a huge change in its own right. But if someone wants to get this going, and don't get me wrong, actually, the baseball, I guess, technically doesn't need anything because they're getting a new stadium too, sort of.
Well, partnership stadium. We talked about that.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, better than nothing for sure. But that's a huge step. Brand new stadium. It's something you recruit against. It's not going to be the full-time stadium like we previously reported, but it will be a place they play a lot of their games.
I do have one thing that I have an idea. I could probably go through some of these questions we didn't ask and just kind of answer them based off what we know already.
Sure.
All right. Where was the one? I just saw one. That was a pretty good one. Someone said master plan. Are we going? Oh, we're going to preserve football parking for the yellow and blue lot for longtime football fans because tailgating is such a rich tradition, experience, blah, 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 Rutgers football games. They mean blah, blah, blah like that. You guys understand. I just didn't want to read the whole question. Anyway, it does sound like yellow lot might be saved if the football facility does go where expected to go in the tennis courts, the old tennis courts that are now a parking lot, which is bizarre. They already paved over the tennis court. Like, it's just got that black tar, the cheap stuff or whatever. But I think yellow lot's safe. Blue lot, I think eventually, and I wouldn't panic just yet, I think eventually that is going to be the lacrosse stadium. That is the plan. That is we tweeted out the renderings. And if you don't believe those are real renderings now, it's the same exact renderings Rutgers put out a week ago from the Jersey Mike's Arena that we put out a year and some ago, last October. So like those renderings are real. That's where they're going to put it. The plan for parking wise eventually is going to be where the bubble is now. They're trying to turn that into parking, I believe. They also, from what I was told, they're going to expand that golf course. And I think Pat said that actually on our last pod too. They eventually want to expand the golf course because number one, I mean, the home team can't even play matches there, which is crazy to me. They don't have any home matches for Rutgers golf. That's just nuts. And they're going to be eventually parking there, and that's the plan. As for parking, and it's not going to ruin the tailgating scene much because if anything, that boardwalk enhanced the tailgating scene a ton. Scarlet lot's still pretty good. The yellow lot's I love the yellow lot. I think it's my number one personally. I wish it was all more condensed, but you got to do what you got to do, just because you got to expand facility, keep adding. You heard Pat; he said what 50-year gap. I mean, I think it's more like 60-year gap since they last renovated something. Prior to Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Center, prior to the Rockian. Before that, there was Jersey Mike's Arena, he said, and that was 67. So yeah, that's crazy.
It's insane, yeah. But it's, I work in a job where we deal with technical debt, where you're trying to make up for decisions that were made a long time ago and weren't maintained, and they're dealing with the same thing here. It's just there hasn't been that commitment and that dedication and that investment into facilities for a long time, and we all know that a lot of areas have a need. You can't address them all at once, and they're trying their best to address as many as possible as quickly as possible. And it's exciting stuff. Anything else you wanted to hit on regarding the conversation today?
You talked about bowl games and locations, and he kind of named the 3 that everyone's heard. I don't think he gave it away, but I think we all know where they're going, win or loss on Saturday. Jeez, I'm thinking NFL. I don't think I think everyone knows where they're going. They're going to the Pinstripe Bowl.
The Pinstripe Bowl wants Rutgers. Rutgers probably
they've been in contact already. So
I think Rutgers is kind of agnostic, if I'm being honest. Honestly, it's nice to go on a trip, but all these bowl games are huge. Not huge. They're all you're losing money on every bowl unless it's like the college football playoff.
Or you're down the street.
Or you're down the street. If you're going down the street, they're still going to get the experience. They're going to be in hotels. They're going to be doing everything you would normally do for a bowl, but you don't have to charter a flight. You don't have to, do all the logistical nightmare of bringing, hundreds of players worth of equipment to Nashville or Las Vegas. It's a very easy trip in general for the program. It's probably closer than any road game they've played this year, going to the Bronx by a long shot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds in the sense that Rutgers will show out. I have no doubt that there'll be 15 to 20,000 Rutgers fans there. Unfortunately, it's on a Thursday at 2 p.m. But
a little not bad though. But I do have confirmation that a certain bar behind the bleacher creatures will be opening pretty early.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that you were in talks of hosting some kind of night report gathering. You want to let the cat out of the bag there?
No, not yet. We're almost there. We're almost there. We've had talks already. We've figured some details out. We're still working on what time they can legally open. So that just goes to show you, I'm putting an effort for you guys. So if you want to drink at 7 a.m., I'll make sure you're drinking at 7 a.m. But yeah, no, we're still working out some details. But it will be one of the various bars. If you're a Yankee fan, you probably know about Billy's, Stan's, Dugout. They're all back there. It's not the Dugout, unfortunately. So that there's your hint, pretty much. Because the Dugout is cool. It might be Bill. One of them has a Taco Bell in the back of the bar. It's the Dugout, and it's like built. The Taco Bell's built next door, but it's literally a drive-through window built in the back of the bar. It's sick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you're a Yankee fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's just the greatest thing ever. But it's probably going to be Pinstripe Bowl. I don't know what they get for gifts though. They do get gifts, so I wonder if, what they'll get for that one. Because New Era used to give out like a exclusive cap and this and gift card. I haven't been able to find anything for the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl, aka the Pinstripe Bowl. But maybe you get a ride on lawnmower. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, probably not, but a little bit of grass seed. I don't know. Like, what do you get? I haven't been able to find it. I've looked everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it should be interesting to say the least. But it's sponsored by the Yankees, so I mean, you probably get something decent.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be a pretty awesome gift. Any bowl that's affiliated with a conference like the Big Ten, SEC, they have to step their game up. Big difference between the old days of the Birmingham Bowl or whatever the hell that was, Papa John's. Big change.
Totally different. But yeah. So if you're coming to New York, I'd probably book your hotels now.
Oh yeah. One thing I do want to reference before we head out here, the transfer portal is heating up. There's a lot going on in the transfer portal right now. Rutgers is starting to show interest in a lot of guys. Made its first offer earlier today. A lot of these guys we highlighted prior to the portal being open, just as
I'm not even
speculative.
taking credit. That's all you. You
That's
did your
names
your
we came
due
up with that
diligence.
would make sense for Rutgers if they entered the portal. We highlighted them over a month ago, so we have full profiles on a lot of these guys. One of them is Joey Slackman, who's a defensive lineman from UPenn. He was a former wrestler who joined the football team at UPenn, went on to be a captain, two-time first-team All-Ivy, just a very dominant player. He's 6'4", 300, 310, huge guy. He got a Rutgers offer today. He's got an offer from, probably 12 other schools too. But he's a guy who's from Comic, New York. He's a guy who probably would be interested in Rutgers, and I know that you wrote up a story about him right away. I'm sure you're in the process of still reaching out to get an idea of where things stand with him.
Yeah.
But portal season started early this year because I don't think we offered the first kid last year until at least December. So
yeah, it's going to be a madhouse. I know. I obviously talked to other coaches. I've talked to several Power 5 guys. I've talked to G5 guys. I've talked to FCS dudes that are like, yo, like I'm about to lose like my entire team. Like you saw half of Holy Cross enter the portal recently. Mind you, they're all grad transfers, and if you're a grad transfer, you're immediately in the portal, and that's how it works because there's no rules for those guys. But that's why you're seeing so many names enter. FCS seasons are pretty much done. Ivy League's pretty much done. So yeah, no, but Joey Slackman is such an interesting case, and I don't know if Rutgers is going to get him because he's going to get like just basically every offer in the book. He's a massive defensive tackle, like you said, wrestling background, and he's good as hell. So
yeah. So he entered the portal. So today is the 21st. He entered the portal last night. And he already has offers from UConn, BYU, Pittsburgh, Houston, Rutgers, Illinois, Virginia Tech, Duke, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, Vanderbilt, Oregon State, and Wisconsin.
And that's just growing and growing and growing.
He's going to have an offer from almost every school in the country, probably. So you got to hope that he wants to stay cllose to home.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be easy to land.
You're going to have to hope you have probably a bag for him, too, because that's what most of these guys are going to be going for. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rutgers is uniquely positioned with kids from the Ivy League, where most Ivy League kids are not necessarily looking for a bag, if I had to guess. They obviously made the 40-year decision going to an Ivy League school, and they probably could have played for like a South Dakota State or maybe played for Toledo or something like that in the MAC.
Yeah.
These guys already have the mindset to make those kind of decisions, so I'm hoping they understand that this next one, where they only get 1 year to really show what they're made of at the Power 5 level, so you can't really just decide I'm going to take money unless you just don't think you're going to make the NFL. Then you take the biggest bag and set yourself up for the future. But
so we'll wait and see. But I expect plenty of more offers soon. Coaches are already following people. Their staff is already reaching out to people. It's going to be interesting. And then I do have to mention it because someone asked about it on the board. Slackman's a defensive tackle they clearly want. How much does Marquise Watson not with the team right now help recruiting? It's a weird situation. Jared Kite, I don't know how to say it, is the interim D-line coach, but I'm told him and Noonan are going to collab with efforts in recruiting. So keep an eye out for those two, probably on the trail soon. Yeah,
we wish Coach Watson all the best. I know he's going through some stuff right now, but he's definitely in all our thoughts. It's a crazy time, and there's only going to get crazier. So stay tuned to the boards because anybody we show interest in, we're going to try and get a write-up up as soon as possible and keep track of that for you.
Yep.
That's all I got, Rich. Anything you wanted to say before we head out?
No. You know what? One thing, the Jersey Mike's Arena thing that I was mentioning before, they're going to try to get corporate sponsors. And hey, if you can find a guy that I don't know if you saw what Memphis just did, but FedEx founder who owns or FedEx Field, is their field, or FedEx Forum, whatever the fuck it is, I forget one of those things. He just gave $50 million gift to Memphis. Memphis came out and said, we'll match it. and then 120 million in state funds, which sounds eerily familiar to a Rutgers situation with state funds. So if you can find a FedEx guy, or maybe try to convince the dude from Home Depot to come on back and kind of show some support for your former alma mater, or I guess alma mater, not former. You gotta do something. You gotta get some kind of big branding on board, and that's going to be the start of it. So we'll just have to wait and see, and then that's pretty much it. Big game on Saturday.
Yeah, huge game. Could lock in a winning season for Rutgers if they are able to beat Maryland. I think we're a 3-point dog in that one.
Yep.
Unsure if we will have a preview pod for that one, given the week situation. Trying to make it work, but it's more difficult than we would have initially thought coming into this week.
Well, Thanksgiving, all that. So.
Yep. But I want to really thank you guys for listening and for subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that. If you haven't already, it's incredibly helpful to the pod to help grow and to help get this in front of more people. For everybody who has rated and reviewed, thank you once again. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.